Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar, 6 Common Issues Encountered When Scaling an Account-Based Marketing Strategy. I am Rory Tokunaga, Marketing Programs Manager at Demandbase. Today, we are lucky to have members from the ABM Leadership Alliance on a panel to answer your questions on scaling ABM strategies through technology. For those of you who don't know, the ABM Leadership Alliance unites industry-leading technology partners to educate and guide B2B marketers on how to develop and deploy ABM strategies. In addition to our panel speakers, I'm also joined by Patrice Greene, President and Co-founder of Inverta, and your moderator for today's webinar. Before I can hand it over to Patrice, I have a few housekeeping items to go over. We will have a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so be sure to submit your questions in the Q&A panel on the right side of your screen. We often don't have time to address all questions, so we will follow up after the session if we don't get to you. We are recording this webinar, and the on-demand version and slides will be sent to you in a few days. Or you can download the slides in the resources module on the right side of your screen. So as I said, I'm joined today by Patrice Greene of Inverta. Patrice, we are so excited to have you here with us today. So with that, I'll let you take it away.
Great, thank you, Rory. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. For those that don't know me, I am one of the co-founders and the president of Inverta. A little bit about us, if you're not familiar, we are a B2B marketing consulting firm, and our motto here is making good strategy happen. Our passion is to devise strategies that are not only innovative, but also feasible and enabled by today's MarTech landscape. We spend a good portion of our time helping clients around account-based marketing. And while each of our clients has their own specific approach to ABM, the common thread is the challenges that they all encounter. And today we'll be talking about the 6 common challenges that organizations encounter when scaling ABM strategy. Over the past few years, ABM has quickly become the primary B2B go-to-market strategy. Marketers have been implementing ABM best practices, trying new strategies, and experiencing a lot of success. And many organizations start by piloting ABM. And as they attempt to scale beyond that initial launch point, they find manual processes that worked during the pilot phase just aren't sustainable any longer. The members of the ABM Leadership Alliance identified these 6 issues that they came up with when talking with other B2B marketers about ABM. We're going to dive into these issues in more detail throughout this webinar. And with us today, we've got a great panel of speakers lined up from the ABM Alliance ready to address your questions. So with us today, we have Dave Rigotti, Head of Marketing from Visible, Sherry Johnson, SVP of Marketing from Radius, Elle Wolf, VP of Marketing from Lookbook HQ, Stephanie Robotham, VP of Marketing from Optimizely, Jessica Fulis, Senior Director of Field and Partner Marketing from Demandbase, and Sandra Freeman, Head of Strategic Marketing at Engagio. So with that, let's jump into our first issue. Assigning attribution for opportunities is causing issues with sales or within marketing. So first I want to say I love the fact that we're talking about measuring right off the bat. Too often it's an afterthought and folks jump right into target account selection. We'll get there. But when ABM is done well, it's a highly choreographed set of activities that's touching sales, marketing, and often other resources throughout your organization. And so measuring marketing's contribution can become very confusing to organizations. So with us today, we've got Dave from Visible, who's going to talk more about how he sees overcoming this issue. Dave?
Hey, thanks so much. Yeah, I'm really excited to talk about the sales and marketing alignment right off the bat, because ABM is not just a marketing activity, it's really a company activity. I've been part of companies that have really fantastic alignment and companies that have, frankly, terrible alignment, to the point where sales and marketing don't even talk to each other, and there's a mediator you had to go through. It's pretty ridiculous. And what I have uncovered is a lot of this stems from the metrics, the goals of each of the teams. So in all organizations, or most organizations, sales team is focused on revenue. That's the only thing they care about, and it's how they're goaled and how they're compensated. Whereas a lot of marketing teams are focused on marketing qualified leads or maybe opportunities. So they're incentivized to drive a lot of demand, but not necessarily kind of revenue growth like the sales team. And aligning these two teams isn't just great for culture, though that's a really strong benefit. This is great for business growth and a must-have for any organization doing ABM. So let's dig into kind of how to do that, and I'll share a quick example. So first, like creating alignment with ABM analytics, it's fairly straightforward. Step one is really think about your goals and your incentives for your marketing team. I strongly feel this should be revenue. Marketers should be driving revenue, and marketers should be compensated on company revenue. You can take this even further and include churn and upsells if you're doing customer marketing, and really align not only kind of marketing and sales, but success into the equation as well. And the reason for revenue is because that's what sales is thinking about. And engagement or other kind of top of the funnel metrics that you might be used to as part of ABM are more like leading indicators. So they're like the MQL, just in an ABM world. So aligning marketing to revenue is step one. Step two is kind of three things. Tracking kind of all the marketing touches. I call this like all journey. Make sure you understand all of the journey. And ensure that you're including your non-traditional channels in your measurement. A great example of this is mailers. A lot of systems weren't built. A lot of systems that were built a few years ago weren't built to handle mailers as a channel. So this is the kind of all channels point of measurement. And then account-based. So if you're selling to accounts, you need to measure everyone who's involved in a deal. So this is all buyers. So all journey, all channels, and all buyers. And this is just a quick example of what I mean by full funnel measurement of ABM. In this example, there's kind of two examples here. Both of these are tracking multiple buyers involved in a deal. The first one is tracking only to the opportunity. The second one would be tracking all the marketing touches all the way to revenue, and including all of the channels. So audit your buyer's journey, audit your marketing measurement, and kind of look at how you're applying marketing touches to your performance goals. And you want to look like the second example here, tracking all your buyers, tracking all of the marketing touches to revenue, and then as part of that, make sure that you're kind of tracking and understanding insights for all channels. So a great example of what kind of happens when you start to think about revenue is you start to do post-opportunity stage activities. I think the kind of classic example here is field marketing. This is an Ignite tour that we did as part of the ABM Leadership Alliance in the fall, and a lot of us brought our open opportunities, even customers, to this event. If a marketing team was goaled just on the number of opportunities they were generating, they're oftentimes not involved in sales enablement or doing any sales enablement, of which field marketing is a really kind of core component to. And I think you can even take field marketing further with sales dinners. When I go to sales dinners, I can tell which ones are run by sales and which ones are run by marketing. And generally, the companies that are running them through sales, the marketing team does not have a revenue metric. They're golden opportunities, so they don't support the sales team in these activities. Just to recap, you want to make sure that you're measuring and optimizing kind of all your marketing for revenue for the true sales and marketing alignment at your organization. Thanks.
Great. Thanks, Dave. So next up, we're going to talk about selecting and managing target account lists. It's manual, it's cumbersome, and I can't stress how important of a milestone this is when you are launching your ABM strategy. Too often, organizations might accept as gospel maybe some legacy ways in which target accounts were created where marketing didn't really have a say in it, and sales reps might have been choosing the target accounts. Oftentimes, when you ask organizations, how did you select that target account list? Really what it boils down to is it's a list of Fortune 500 companies or a list of Fortune 100 companies. And really, no matter how great the messaging and content is, if you don't have the right selection of target accounts, it's really going to be all for nothing. So with us today is Sherry from Radius, who's going to talk about approaches to building a good target account list.
Great. Thanks, Patrice.
Sherry?
Appreciate the intro. Thank you. Yeah, I also agree with you, Patrice. I firmly believe that account-based marketing is really only successful if you're really going after those right accounts to begin with. You know, the one thing I love about ABM is really not wasting my marketing dollars and resources on accounts that are never going to be a good fit. We've all been there where we've launched mass broad-based campaigns and feel really good about it, and the numbers are huge, and we look into the actual contacts, and there are a lot of consultants or students or people who are never going to be a good fit logo for us. So by really focusing our marketing dollars and resources on that targeted set of logos, we are able to all really rally around these new customers, and it's a very enticing approach. But how do we get there, and how do we understand how to select the right accounts to really go after? So, my journey of account selection, and I think many others, look a bit something like this that you just alluded to as well, Patrice, that, you might start out with just using a named account list that maybe your sales team has in Excel on their desktop. And this can be an initial step to getting in the door with ABM, where you at least maybe you run a pilot off of some of the accounts that that they're actually excited to get into. But what we soon learn is to scale. We realize that not all sales named account lists are created equal, and some of them, as Patrice mentioned, may just be what they were, the Fortune 500 they were able to pull down from Hoover's, or not have a lot of strategy mixed up into the account selection. So as we mature, we look at what does your successful close one deals look like, and start modeling your target account list using some strategy as opposed to a sales or only oriented account list. And then next, as we get more mature, applying data science to this process. This is sort of how I started into the predictive world, in that I was manually going through thousands and thousands of accounts and trying to buy attributes to stick into Excel spreadsheets, and what a mess it was to try to figure out, based off of key technologies and great industries that we were a fit for, how do I figure out, using a data-driven approach, what accounts to go after? So I started leveraging predictive and data science tools to help scale that approach. And then lastly, the last set of maturity is not only adding data science to this process, but also having a bit of art mixed into this. So lots of times, the data science approach is great, but you may also need a manual review with your sales team, or I definitely highly recommend one. An instance where this comes into handy is you may be migrating your product into offering an enterprise offering, or you may be adding features that opens the doors for a new vertical that the data science would not reveal. So having a bit of art and science to this approach is really key. So how do you really get started with this? So four quick steps that I recommend to really help you get off the ground is a common theme, it sounds like, throughout this webinar is really align with sales. So, no matter how good your account selection is, even if it's the perfect data-driven model, if sales doesn't trust it, you're not going to get very far. So that's the first step in this, is to really make sure that you build that trust, that credibility, they understand and buy into the approach. Two is using data science to really find more of your next best customers. This is key to scaling. As Patrice mentioned, you may be able to get away with a pilot without some of these technologies, but as you find success, leveraging predictive or data science and other tools to help you really scale your ABM approach will be key. And third, validate results as a team and really tier your accounts. So we go through a quarterly process where we use data science to help select our key account list and evolve it quarter after quarter. And then we actually tier them into Tier A and Tier B accounts to help us prioritize based off of different program selections. And then finally, and most importantly, operationalizing them into your CRM, marketing automation, and other technologies to really start executing. This will help really create that clear visibility, the lead routing processes and reporting to make sure that you are all aligned around your target account list. Great.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sherry. So, now you've spent all this time, if you take Sherry's advice, right, investing in selecting the right target accounts. And oftentimes, right, we spend all that due diligence and make sure that we're going after the right accounts, but maybe sometimes fall down in making sure that when they do land on our web properties that we're optimizing the experience that they're having. And so understanding which web experiences are most effective for those target accounts is a really critical success factor. With us today, we've got Stephanie from Optimizely, who's going to walk us through her thoughts on captivating your visitors' attention.
Thanks so much. So this is a topic I'm really passionate about because we've done a ton of it at Optimizely and we're having some really stunning results. I'm really happy to share that with you today, some good examples. So this one's about how we utilize data to inform the experiences that we deliver to our prospects, visitors, etc. So delivering the right personalized experience should be based on a couple of really essential data sources. There are others, there's lots of others, but keep these two front of mind as you get going. So the first one, which account is visiting your site and what do you know about them? So what size is the company? Which geo are they based in? What industry are they in? Are they a customer or are they not? Secondly, look at the signals that your visitors are giving you based on their behavior and their journey across your site or sites. So what have they done on your website? How have they interacted with your blog? Have they participated in your community? And deliver experiences based on both of those two key data points. So as a first step, try targeting on your homepage and then work through your most highly trafficked pages. That's the approach we took and it worked pretty well. So you can see here on the slide, this is an experience we deliver for Microsoft. And if you scroll down on that page, you would see B2B case studies, you would see relevant content for a big B2B tech company, and the experience through the whole homepage would be highly personalized for Microsoft. Then start to think about your calls to action. What do you want them to do next? This is part of you pushing them through that journey. So all these calls to actions could be based again on the firmographic profile of your visitor. It could be based on the total engagement accounts had with you in the past. It could be based on their current lead status. It could be based on the sales stage that they're at that you can pull from your CRM. So there's a ton to think about there about what you're going to base your calls to action on. Where are you pushing them next in an informed way? So one of the things we're working on at Optimizely is the experience we give to small companies that fall outside of our core account profile to encourage them into a self-service sales motion. So we've changed our nav. At the top it doesn't say plans if you're a company of less than 25 employees. It says buy now. We've replaced most of our CTAs across the site with buy now, get started, sign up. Of course, we're testing that. But not contact sales. And we're seeing some really interesting early results about the quality of the leads that are going into our traditional sales funnel and what we're seeing go into that sort of self-service motion. So don't forget, throughout all of this, measure the effectiveness of these targeted campaigns to really validate and show the value of what you're doing. So some advice from what we went through when we did this: keep experimenting, try things, and don't forget, test the personalized experience against the non-ABM, more generic experiences so you can really show the value of what you're doing. So accelerating the buyer journey, this is what we're all here to do. Making sure you measure the impact of the changes, not just on the site. So did engagement increase? Did they spend more time on the page? Our usual sort of web metrics. but follow the impact down the funnel. Look at pipeline, look at opportunities where you can look even to close business. And secondly, I would say frame your ABM strategy to optimize the velocity in that entire funnel, not just what you see on the website. It's super important to follow it all the way through. So figure out the experiences that are going to encourage visitors to become leads, leads to become opportunities, and opportunities to become customers. And don't forget, don't ignore the signals. You're almost certainly collecting and tracking a ton of really incredible data about what your visitors are doing on your website, but are you acting on it? I really believe there's a big opportunity to really delight your customers through their whole buying cycle by responding to the data that they're actually giving you. So back to you.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. Oh, switching ahead. There we go. All right, so our fourth issue that we have is deciding which content to deliver to target accounts to move them through the buyer's journey. I oftentimes engage with clients after they maybe have kind of quote unquote dipped their toe into the ABM world and have a little bit of experience, but maybe are looking to accelerate their pace of change or adapt and aren't seeing the results that they're looking for. And aside from, maybe looking at target account selection, I often find that this is an area, what type of content that they're delivering and how are they delivering that content is kind of a source that could be revisited and potentially changed to make sure that their ABM program is more successful. So today, Elle's going to walk us through what she's seen work based on her experience at Lookbook.
Thanks, Patrice. Hi, everybody. This has been really interesting, actually, to not just be participating, but to sit here and listen in, because we've recently launched our own pretty elaborate ABM, program, and I will just come out and admit that it's really hard, and so it's really helpful to kind of hear how different people are approaching it. I'll start by stating the obvious. Attention is a really precious thing. As marketers, most of what we are doing is an attempt to cultivate attention, to get someone to click, to get them to engage. But especially when we're talking about, high-value targets, lists of accounts that are often finite in nature, using, different types of channels that, can be kind of expensive to get those clicks. Those target account, points of attention are incredibly precious, right? We really need to do a good job as marketers if we're providing air cover on target accounts of both, capturing that attention and hanging on to it once we've got it. And this is true, for any type of marketing, but certainly, again, particularly important when we're talking about these high-value targets. And unfortunately, I think the way that a lot of marketers today are delivering content to many of their prospects doesn't do a whole lot to capitalize on attention. The standard playbook is, whether it's serve the personalized door on the website or, deliver the great personalized ad or, whatever channel you're trying to capture that initial interest through, we tend to, drive them to the landing page, drive them to the form, deliver the asset, walk away, and hope that they'll click again next time. And the thing you have to remember is you had that attention, right? Once it's gone, it's gone. You're not sure that you're going to get it back. And so really what we, try to focus our customers on is how can you capitalize on that attention when you have it? How can you deliver a content experience and sequence that, rather than delivering that single asset, tries to keep someone engaged, move them through the relevant content they need to make a purchasing decision, and not assume that you're going to capture their attention next time. And so, the other challenge I think marketers have with capitalizing on those target account clicks, those ABM clicks, is that a lot of times the buyer that you're targeting or the buyer that you manage to capture attention from is anonymous. It's not known to you, right? Marketers have gotten really good at, I think, nurturing their known database. So you know who your contact is, they're sitting in your database, you have that great nurturing program, you're constantly dripping some content, you know how to target them, you know how to get in front of them. And that's how marketers have become successful in, cultivating demand, taking someone from, light maybe passive interest to becoming actively interested in sales ready. A lot of times when we're talking about target accounts, a lot of the attention that we're generating through these various channels is anonymous, and it's much harder to nurture an anonymous buyer, right? You don't actually have that person's name. You don't know who they are. You may know that they're from company A, and that's great. And that's where, I think the big opportunity is. How can we as marketers get better at, nurturing anonymous users' traffic in the same way that we have done with our known contacts? A known contact is probably familiar with you. They're maybe marginally, if not actively interested. You got their name somehow. You engaged them in some way. The anonymous that you're trying to cultivate that interest in is actually, this is actually more important. Your ability to nurture those anonymous clicks is pretty critical to creating sales readiness in target accounts. And as I said at the beginning, that's hard, right? But it doesn't necessarily have to be. I think a lot of the nuance here is how you deliver the content, right? Making a simple change to the way that you deliver content can make all the difference. So rather than that one-to-one click-to-content ratio, increasing the content you deliver to your, whether it's known or anonymous buyers, every time they click, treating those clicks as the start of a journey. So the example here is, this is actually an example from our own website, but standard sort of playbook, whether it's a personalized store or ad or whatever, somebody comes, you're offering them an asset, hey, click on this video, get to know us, it's an explainer video, check it out. And again, typically what people might do is drive this to a video or have it appear in a light box or whatever the case may be, and hope that that content you just provided did the job, and hopefully they'll come back for more. They'll find the next thing you want them to see. And so really the opportunity here is, how can you serve that content in the type of experience that will give the buyer more? It will give them more options, right? So you come in, you view the video, and then here on the left-hand side, hey, there's 5 other things that are related assets that I've curated for you to try to keep you engaged. So if that's not the thing you want, maybe it's this thing over here. Or, hey, did you really love that? Here's some more content to keep you moving along. And there's a lot of really cool things going on now in terms of, we use the term content science, but getting smart about how we use data based on how people engage with content to dynamically serve up these experiences. So it is really hard to curate a content journey for someone you don't know, right? You're serving an ad, they're clicking on it. It's hard to then say, okay, then I want you to see XYZ things because you don't know who they are. Using new sort of techniques and algorithms and data to actually say, we're going to serve up a recommended content stream based on the fact that you're from this company and based on how people have engaged with this content in the past. That's the opportunity for marketers in terms of how they create stickiness around these content experiences. The other side of it is just identifying when it happens. The key to understanding buyer interest and intent, it's not just the click. It's what happened after the click. Do you really want to treat these clicks the same? So you've got multiple people from company A clicking through, spending time with your content versus, one person from company B clicks through, downloads the thing, never even looks at it. So the ability to see what's happening beyond the click, how much time are they spending with the content? How many assets in the content experience are they looking at? This is the kind of intelligence that if you can surface it to your sales team, they're going to take you out for cocktails because they're going to love to see, oh, that's my target account. I'm trying to sell into these guys. I actually see that 4 people from this account just spent, had intensity around the research they were doing and time they spent with our content. So, really starting to evolve those metrics from just, we care about clicks, we care about impressions, to we care about time spent consuming content. Was the marketing actually consumed is really a leading indicator, I think, for, sales readiness and intent. So that's all I've got. I will pass it back to you, Patrice.
Awesome. Thanks, Al. That was super valuable. Great. So now we're going to switch gears a little bit. We're going to talk about connecting with the buying committee at target accounts. And, today it's like, I call them buying battalions, right? There's so many individuals within a target account that you may need to find a way to connect with. And these can be everything from influencers to decision makers. And they're all activating themselves across different channels, right? Some they're researching, some are engaging in other ways, they're on blog posts, they're reading and whatnot. And so finding a way for marketing to kind of mine this data and to work with your SD team, for instance, to really truly engage these accounts and take them from, a target account that we're trying to activate to somebody that we're having engaged conversation with is challenging to many organizations. So with us today is Jessica from Demandbase, who's going to talk to us a little bit about what she's seen effective in this area.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Patrice. So, when we talk about that whole, engaging with the right buying committee, engaging with the right buyers, those sorts of things, really in most organizations, that first line of defense is kind of your SDR team, your sales development, marketing development, business development. Every company calls them something different, and sometimes they sit under sales and sometimes they sit under marketing. That being said, they all serve the same basic function. They're kind of that front line to helping your outside sales reps, kind of call through all the different leads, call through all the target accounts, and figure out which ones are ready to pop, get that meeting, and get the AE engaged. That's really kind of the main purpose here. Now, in the old model before target account, or before account-based marketing and target account lists, the SDRs were typically kind of a smile and dial type of function. It was really high volume. They were just trying to send out as many emails and make as many phone calls in a day to hope to get enough meetings to keep their sales team and their sales counterparts happy. Now, this is the same struggle that we as marketers have had for a long time, following kind of the classic serious decision model of, hey, put as much as we can, as many MQLs or as many leads in the top of the funnel, hoping that 0.3% actually flow through to close one business. So, it's not surprising that the SDR team was kind of operating on the same basis. Now, in the new model with account-based marketing with that target account list, just as within marketing, now the SDRs are much more focused on quality. They're trying to get to those target accounts. They're not just taking a lead, making a phone call, and moving on, but rather they're taking a look at a lead from a company, and thank you, Elle, for setting this up, and all the other signals from that account. It's not just that lead, but it's, okay, that's a lead. That lead is a signal. What other signals do we have in this account? Who really do I want to talk to in that account? Because it's probably not the person who downloaded the ebook. And then, crafting a whole story that they can now share with that account to really have a much higher probability of getting that meeting. Now, part of the problem here is that in most organizations, your average SDR is young and inexperienced. Oftentimes it's their first, maybe their second job out of college. It's always been seen as kind of a mercenary role. It's kind of a thankless job. They are that front line. They're getting a lot of emails that aren't getting responded to, or getting back the kind of nasty grams of please unsubscribe, or getting the phone hung up on them. So it's kind of a tough rule. And let's be clear, as with most SDR teams, they tend to be a lot of, 22 to 25-year-old kids. And so, on a classic Thursday or Friday morning, they're probably coming in hungover. So while inherently that's not an issue, as I mentioned on the slide before, we've placed a lot of responsibility on that SDR to get that meeting. And so, they're really needing to take data and all those signals that both Elle and I talked about and turn it into insights and into action to get those meetings. And so, they're needing to research and qualify the accounts themselves, read press and blogs to understand, what's going on in the marketplace and what a particular company might be interested in, going out and researching the buying committee through LinkedIn and other types of technologies. Learn about the accounts and the contacts at those accounts. Who hasn't gotten a, hey, I'd like to set up a meeting subject line from an SDR before. Now, however, I got a great one the other day because here at Demandbase, we've branded our target account list as the DB3K. I actually got an email from an SDR that said, hey, you're on my DB3K. Guess what? I opened that email and I gave that SDR a meeting because he got to know who I was, what I talk about, what I care about, and he spoke to me. So he got that meeting for me. There's other things about getting, then remaining here. You need to get that contact info for those contacts. And then last but not least, creating that message. Like I said, That email was very custom tailored to me, got my attention, got the meeting. If you get the generic subject line, how many of us go through our inbox first thing in the morning and delete all those emails from those poor SDRs that have painstakingly crafted those, right? So, really at this point, marketing needs to really help this SDR team, enable this SDR team to do all this work, help by prioritizing accounts to target and the campaigns that we're doing as marketing. Which ones should they focus on first, second, third? What does the business landscape look like? What are the relevant business topics they should be talking about? So you don't get that generic email, but you get an email that's going to be relevant to that company's industry or the company size or specifically to that company. Help prioritize and research the contacts that they're supposed to reach out to, and then help provide them with that personalized news to once again make that contact-specific messaging that's going to get them that meeting. And really, the last slide here is just to say that really marketing needs to help turn all this data that the SDRs are getting into actionable insights that they can act on and they can pass on to their AEs to act on to make sure that they're having the right relevant conversation with that account at the right time. So with that, I'll pass it back over to you, Patrice.
Perfect, thank you. So a perfect segue into our next topic, right, about enabling the sales team to follow up on marketing programs. As you heard Jessica just talking about, really helping the SDR team out and providing them with good information so that they can prioritize their day and they know how to follow up and whatnot. I find, I'm on a little bit of a mission because I like to change the terminology from sales and marketing alignment to sales and marketing choreography, because in an ABM world, it's really about how these two teams work harmoniously together, and obviously other resources as well. But I think really making sure, we've spent all this time selecting the right target accounts, and we talked about it throughout this webinar, getting in front of the right individuals, serving up the right contacts in the right places, making sure we're being measured effectively. If we're not kind of bringing it all the way home and enabling our sales team and working collaboratively with them, then it's all for nothing, right? So I can't think of anybody better to talk to us about this than Sandra from Engagio. So over to you, Sandra.
Thanks, Patrice. Hi, everybody. Whoops, I think I'm one ahead here. Let me switch back. So I'm just echoing what Jessica was saying about, this morning I had my cup of coffee and I hit delete, delete, delete for anything I could get rid of that wasn't hot in my inbox, so I could kind of get an understanding of what I needed to do. And so that's what we need to think about for our prospects. And I'm just going to give you a framework of how we think about it at Engagio, because it's hard to personalize every single email, right? So we put tiers in place, and we have agreements with the sales reps that a tier 1, which is usually for us, is where your bandwidth is, like how many can our reps follow up with where it's personal. So our tier 1 is in the handfuls, and that always has to be personal. Those would not get an automated blast. Tier 2 would be a broader group of accounts, and we would personalize the key personas at the tier 2. And then we can include automated to a non-key persona, so we're still touching them. But the tier 2 key personas need that research that Jessica was talking about and the more personalized touch. And then tier 3 is where we say, okay, automated is okay because we can help get the low-hanging fruit in more than thousands of accounts. So this is how we think about it. And then I also wanted to share a framework that was created by John Miller. He's the CEO of Engagio and was also a founder at Marketo. So basically created this, what Patrice was calling choreography, we call it orchestration. There's, of course, the single email to a single person, calling that the basic. And then over time, if you're doing a single email, wait, another email, that's like your next level. And then you start adding in channels and say, for the sales reps, it's not just single emails. It's let's bring in other channels. Let's bring in the LinkedIns and let's go to the Slack channel. Let's let's touch them where they are. So it's adding those channels. And then the next level beyond that in terms of orchestration is adding more people. And it's not just one-to-one, it's one-to-many. And then the full orchestration or choreography, as Patrice said, is the full play, where it's multiple players on my team and multiple players on that target account team and how we're engaging and being relevant with them. So I wanted to show you what this looks like from a visual perspective for a sales follow-up. So rep A would be your typical follow-up that you might be used to from either a basic or a time-based follow-up, which email, call, wait. So the orchestrated play actually has a series of steps, and you figure out what works, and we continually modify these and add steps and add channels and change words, but basically creating multiple touches across multiple players on our side and also at the target account side. So wanted to share that concept of it to get sales to follow up and break through and not just get deleted. It's this orchestration that needs to happen. And one other point that works really well for us is being where sales lives and making sure they know about the programs. Those are 2 points. So where sales lives for Engagio is in Salesforce, and being able to bubble up at the account level how those accounts are engaging, so then in their follow-up they can be more relevant. And then also there's a lot of work done about within those plays, bringing out the value in each touch and explaining to sales, making sure they understand the different programs so that they can bubble up that value to the end user. So that's what I have for today. I'm going to pass that back to Patrice.
Perfect. Thanks, Sandra. So awesome. We have a lot of great takeaways from our speakers today and a lot of great ideas to get us started with scaling ABM. We also have a lot of good questions. So I'm just going to get to it and start asking some questions. First one we have is, what are some tactics you use to enable your sales team? Elle, why don't you take that one?
Sure, thanks. I actually talked a little bit about this when I was talking about, content experiences and measuring what's happening after someone clicks. That's actually a big thing that we do as part of all of our marketing practices, actually. The concept of what we call a fast-moving buyer. So, we're a content delivery platform, an intelligent content platform, and so we track exactly how much time people spend with each individual asset in a content experience. And we make it really easy to sort of translate that into a score. So marketers can go in and set an engagement threshold, like, meaningful engagement would look like this. They have to, view this many assets and spend this much time. And so we do that with our own marketing. We set these engagement thresholds that we want people to meet. And when they meet those thresholds, we call it a fast-moving buyer. And what we do is actually trigger an alert directly to a sales rep, which is particularly effective when it's a target account, to say, hey, by the way, AE, your really hot, account that you're trying to penetrate, someone right now is actually crawling all over our content and spending a lot of meaningful time with it. And that allows them to, it's beyond that surface metric. And a rep is, they're marginally excited when someone clicks on something or, but when they can actually see that that person is showing intensity around research, they're spending time with our content, they're coming to our website, looking at our blogs, reading the follow-up email, that gets them really excited. That helps to drive better alignment with marketing and sales, and that helps to keep them really, really focused on those fast-moving buyers and those early signals of intent that are going to convert and help them to capitalize on them. So that's one thing that we do that's been really effective.
Awesome, thank you. We have another question, Dave. This one's for you. How do you determine what percentage of revenue should be attributed to marketing versus sales, since they both can't take 100% of the credit?
Yeah, this is a great question and a common one that I get. I'll start my answer by maybe defining sales a little bit. So typically in most organizations or many organizations that are doing ABM, they have a top of the funnel sort of sales team, like an outbound calling team, that's booking appointments, and then a closer team, an account executive team that's driving that sales deal to revenue. So for the salespeople that are driving appointments, we and most of our customers think of them as like a marketing channel. They're a demand driver, so they'll give credit to those outbound calls, those emails, just the same way that marketing is getting credit for ad clicks and emails. And then for account executives, thinking of them more as like a COGS, like the product team. Like you need salespeople to close deals, like you need a developer to develop the product. So sales has its own metrics for compensation, though it's still aligned with revenue. And then anything that's demand-centric, like marketing and even outbound sales, making sure that those are included together, I think, is the biggest hurdle and the biggest thing to go solve for first.
Great, thanks. Okay, we got another great question. What are some of the data science tools that you use? Sherry, I think this actually came in as you were presenting, so I'm going to hand this one over to you.
Sure. Well, obviously being from Radius, we'll tout our own product in terms of being able to work as a great tool. But, I think what you really want to do is look at what you're trying to do as an organization and make sure that whatever technology you're using to scale is meeting the needs of what you're trying to solve. So for instance, some technologies are better at helping with account selection, but if you're also looking for contact selection, really asking the right questions that the data science tools that you're looking at have the ability to solve for both accounts and contacts if that's your goal, or just accounts if that's your goal. So really making sure that you're asking the right questions and ensuring that another key one is that lots of times companies have really unique attributes that they're trying to drill into for their account selection. So, for instance, I remember MindJet. They're a project management tool, and they found that companies that had distributed office environments were a really good fit for them. And that's not a data science an attribute that you have readily available. So really honing in on those types of data that you're looking for and making sure that the tools that you are evaluating can serve your needs.
Awesome. All right. Let's see. Another question we have is, in this new world of attribution, where you're moving away from last touch attribution, how do you communicate goals to the sales team? Jessica, we're going to throw this one over to you.
Yeah, this has definitely been something that we've kind of tackled since the first of the year, because when you're looking at kind of full path or full funnel or multi-touch attribution, however you refer to it, the dynamic changes kind of with the sales team a little bit. First things first, when you're doing a true full path attribution model, now you're looking at not just last touch attribution, but also influence throughout the entire buyer's journey. And so now when you have quote unquote pipeline numbers for a program, you're going to have 2.8 or 10.4, which is an odd number to try and communicate and set goals around with your sales team. And so the approach we've actually taken now is to kind of take a look at all of the registrants as well as all of the attendees for our events, and we set goals based on 3 different categories. We have one, which are net new companies to Demandbase. Secondly, we have companies that are already in a sales cycle. And then third, we have customers. So whenever we're setting up attendance goals, we break it into those 3, and we work with the different sales teams at Demandbase. If it's net new to the company, we work with the SDR team and create messaging and sales enablement for them. If it's folks that our sales team, our AEs, are already engaged with, we set up different types of parameters and messaging for them. And then last but not least, we have our customers. And then on the flip side of that, obviously, and this is where the attribution really comes in, is figuring out what that follow-up and that sales enablement should look like after an event. And once again, this has gotten much more granular and much more focused. So instead of just tossing all the leads into Salesforce and having one set of follow-up messaging and telling the SDR team to go, now once again we break it down into the same 3 categories. So we break down all the net new potential opportunities. We break it down by SDR and actually sit down with each SDR and make sure that they have what they need to do that follow-up and convert those into MQLs and then eventually sales and pipeline. For anybody who's already in pipeline, we sit down with our AEs and, it's a very different message, right? They're already engaged in sales cycle. They already know how they want to follow up, but we talk about what's the next steps here. What can marketing help do to keep moving this account through the funnel? And then last but not least, we have our customers, and that's a very different conversation with our customer success team as to, hey, are these guys in cycle for renewal? Is there a potential upsell on the table? And how do we help them out with that? So that's kind of how we've shifted the conversation when it comes to full touch attribution or full path attribution here at Demandbase.
Awesome. Thanks, Jessica. Okay, next question. Who, what team is the biggest roadblock for investing in ABM technology, and how do you gain their buy-in? Sandra, why don't you answer this one?
Okay, sure. I think actually the biggest roadblock is how busy marketers are. When you get on your plate and they say, hey, you're going to do this new program, you're going to add this new tool or solution, you just want to roll your eyes. I can't add that. I have too much to do already. But I think my advice on that is really look to some experts who've already done this. A lot of folks have experience. I think this is not a shameless plug. I know Kathy Maki from Inverta. She works with Patrice. And, I've met her before at different events, and she has tons of experience with enterprise account-based programs, SAP, Oracle. Getting someone like that who aligns with your particular industry, has experience, I think is the key, because they can also help you with those target account lists, coming in to bridge that gap between sales and marketing, because it's an expert to help you. So I would say save some of your budget for help, because it's important, and they can tell you where the problems might be, and they can give you advice and a framework to helping execute new projects that come up like this.
Awesome.
And that's it.
Thanks, Sandra. All right, I've got another question. Now, this is a long one, so bear with me. In the panel's experience, do quote-unquote like companies consume content similarly? Do they react similarly to marketing approaches? If so, can we scale ABM to an extent based on account type, or is every target account approach from scratch? So, Stephanie, would you like to answer this one?
Sure, thanks. So I think the way we look at this is account type. So let's take vertical. We show content based on the vertical we know you're in. So if you're a retailer, you're more likely to take on and consume retail content. But the second part of the question, do they react similarly? I think the really important thing is back to what I said at the beginning, that presenting content and experiences based on their behavior means that everybody gets their own journey. So if they're consuming a ton of ebooks, show them the next ebook. If they're consuming a lot of time, spending time on the pricing page, adapt other pages based on what they read on the pricing page. So I think you can personalize the experience based on their behavior, but there are some things like vertical content that people do consume way better. It's that they're using the terms that they use. It's solving problems that they have. So it's obviously way more relevant to them.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, Dave, I have a question for you, which is, could you give a specific example of how you'd align marketing to revenue in this ABM approach?
Sure. Yeah, happy to answer that one. I think the way I encourage people to think about this is what's the goal of your marketing, and then make sure that your activities connect to the goal. We have the saying here, random acts of marketing. If you're doing something that's not connected to driving revenue, that's a random act, and maybe you shouldn't do it. So there's obviously tools and technologies to help you connect your marketing activities, your touch points, to revenue. And then there's also a process piece to that as well. So auditing and understanding your marketing, what is and isn't connected to your goals, and then obviously doing more things that are driving revenue and fewer things that aren't connected to that goal or aren't connected to driving revenue.
Great, thanks, Dave. We have another question, which is it possible to have more than one target account list, perhaps by industry or location? Sherry, do you want to take this one?
Sure. The way that we've worked this and the way I've seen most companies I've worked with from a client perspective approach this is really being able to have a tiered list based off of priority, whether it be from using a predictive tool that helps you score them and prioritize them, or whether it be from using that ART approach as well and having sales have a say in terms of their key accounts. This allows us to, when we're doing really high-touch approaches like a direct mail piece that may be fairly pricey, we're able to kind of understand between the Tier A and Tier B list, who we should spend those dollars on and which ones would be most effective. So in our case, we do 20 per AE Tier A accounts, and then they have 200 in their Tier B accounts, which some variation of that seems to be a pretty common approach amongst companies. Not as much by vertical or by geo. What I typically do and have seen in our clients do is really from the target account list kind of slice and dice it from there into geo or even industry. That helps inform what kind of field events we're going to be doing. That helps inform what kind of content we're going to be creating. But I typically recommend having one core list and just prioritizing them.
Great, awesome, thank you. Okay, so another question. A lot of discussion thus far seems to assume that ABM is mostly for new account acquisition, and that marketing generates opportunities for sales. What about existing accounts where sales is already heavily engaged? Stephanie, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so I think this is probably at least 50% of what we use our personalization and ABM for is cross-sell, upsell. So where we have customers that come to the site, we know from our CRM and other systems that they have product A, we present them with product B. We know, for example, if they're part of our customer community and what their last interaction was in the community, and we can tailor experiences based on that. We've done things like when you come to our site as a customer, we would show you a picture and the contact details of your customer success manager and say, hey, click on Bonnie to send her a message. We've also done things where we've used the modules at the bottom of our page to be very specific about delivering content to customers. So when we launch new products or best practices using the product we know you already bought, things like that. So if you've got a good modular site where you've got lots of different areas of content you can personalize, there's tons of stuff you can scatter around for customers to cross-sell, upsell, or importantly, in a SaaS business, drive adoption and engagement. And the more people use your product, the stickier they become and the more likely the renewal is. So we definitely use a lot of it for upsell, cross-sell, and adoption, for sure.
Great. Thanks, Stephanie. And that's all we've got time for today. So one thing to say is we will send out the webinar recording and slides for the next few days. You can also download the slides in the resources module on the right-hand side of your screen.
Awesome. Well, thank you to Patrice for moderating, and thank you to our speakers, Jessica, Sherry, Elle, Dave, Stephanie, and Sandra for being on the panel today. And of course, thank you to our audience for joining us. I hope you all enjoyed learning from our panel experts today. On behalf of the ABM Leadership Alliance, thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day.